another session on Tableau where we are going to spend some time to understand the line chart and the variations with respect to the line chart, especially inclusion of the date and without date, what happens in the line chart. So that's the understanding that we are going to gain out of this session. As, as I explained, every charts here also, I'm going to start off with when exactly we need to make use of the line chart. So for this, again, I have come up with an example. If you could um, see, there is a Bannerghatta National Park, and for that particular national park, how many of the visitors have visited from so and so year. For example, you take from 2012, every day, how many visitors have visited this Bannerghatta National Park, and then does that number of visitors is having any kind of influence with respect to the temperature on that particular day. Okay, so the graph that you're going to plot is between the number of visitors and the temperature. Okay, so the point that I wanted to say here is that the type of data that I'm talking about, the scenario which I have given you, will create a data which is continuous in nature. Okay, so this data is going to be continuous in nature, and also this is what you call it as a time series data. Okay, so there is always a time association with respect to the data. So anything that whenever you are having such type of data, especially when we have to deal with a time series data and you wanted to perform an visualization for the time series data, line chart is the most appropriate one. Okay, so again, to draw a line chart, what I require? Simple. I just require two things. One is my measure and other one is my dimension. That's what we did throughout, even when we discussed about our bar chart and other things also. Okay, so in this particular type of graph, what happens is that we are going to take the measure in one axis and the dimension will be there in the another axis, and the data that I'm going to take, most of the time it is going to be continuous in nature, and there could be a discrete data also. The reason why I'm telling you is that, see, probably every Tuesday the Bannerghatta National Park is closed, which means on that particular day I will not be having any data, right? So which is what I call it as a discrete. So that the type of data that you might be having it in your hand, mostly it is a time series data, and this time series data may be continuous in nature or discrete in nature. Okay, so for every observation, what you will be having is that you will be having a pair. Okay, so for every observation you are having a pair, and then that pair of points is becoming a point, and then you will try to join all the points which is there in the I hope you understood what I'm speaking about. So this is what I'm talking about, a pair of values. And yeah, 2000, and the value it is coming is 46.7. This pair of values will occupy a point here. And when you try to join every point which has been plotted, then you are going to get a line. Okay, so this is what you call it as a line chart. Okay, so the next thing, obvious, very important point that we need to understand is that how do I represent or how do I draw this chart using my Tableau? Okay, so in case if we have continuous data and then we wanted to represent that through a chart, ideal choice is line chart. Okay, so because this is very much required because of the reason that we can identify the trends as well as the patterns in our data, and we can identify what is the kind of seasonal effect and any changes are happening over a period of time. Say for example, during your monsoon season, most of the peoples wouldn't be visiting the Bannerghatta National Park, right? So that's a large change which is happening over a period of time. So if you have to identify all of these things, See, for a novice, they will not be understanding that for just because of the monsoon, the people are not turning up to the national park. Okay, but then the visualization will definitely help one to understand that there was a monsoon. Because of this reason, the people haven't turned up. Okay, so that's the whole idea. Okay, so whenever we wanted to find out the trends or the patterns in the data, then definitely a line chart is an ideal choice. And whenever you have to deal with the time series data and you wanted to perform some kind of visualization with your time series data, the right choice is to use your line chart. Okay, so the simplest example which we have plotted from the Excel is available here. Okay, fine. So now that we have got an understanding of what is the meaning of a line chart, and of course, in line chart, you have two categories. One is your single or simple line chart. Okay. And the other one is your multiple line chart. Okay. So now we need to understand how we can do these two things in our Tableau. Okay. So let's get inside our Tableau environment just to understand how we can construct your line chart. So this is our Tableau environment is there. I am going to use the same example that I have used for your bar chart as well. So bar chart, I just used the data, which is this data. I used it, right? This office supplies is the data which I used it. So let us just use the same data, and it is getting uploaded. So once it is uploaded, so I'm going to my data source, updating. So all my data is available now. So now I'm just going to talk about my line chart. Okay, so whenever we connect a Tableau with a CSV file, what happens is that Tableau will automatically divide your dimensions and the measures. Okay, just you need to remember and recollect this every time when we are doing your chart, so that you will never forget the dimensions and the measures, because this is the basis for any kind of visualization. So as soon as a CSV is loaded into your Tableau, then Tableau will divide them into dimensions and the measures. Okay, so maybe we in our column, that is in our x-axis, basically we will take this representatives. Okay, and then in our y-axis, let's take the units. Okay, so you can see that the visualization automatically it is coming in a bar chart, right? So now what we can do is that we need to basically change this to a line chart. So for that, you can go to your marks card over here and then just click on this option where you are going to select your line. Okay, so once you have selected your line, what you are seeing is basically a line chart. Okay, so this is the discrete single line chart. This is what we have drawn here. Okay, so according to our input data, basically the Tableau has drawn as the line chart. Okay, so now if you wanted to show your heading on the graph or something like that, you wanted to do it, then you just drag this units here, and then you can actually give your label. Okay, so you can see the label now. Okay, so this is about the single chart, a single line chart. Okay, now as you can see here, these are your representative and these are the units that they have sold, and it is also telling how many units which is being sold by each of these representative. So simplest way, and this is what you can do for representing your single line chart. Okay, now one more thing what we have learned or what we have understood is that there is one more type of chart is there. That's what you call it as a multiple line chart. Okay, so in this multiple line chart, what exactly we will try to show, or what sort of relationship existing between this multiple line chart is that the relationship between a dependent and the independent values of the multiple sets of data will be there. Okay, so now you will be having a question. So the question would be very clear question. It is like, um, when exactly should I have to go for a multi line chart? Okay, see, multi-line chart is something which you will be going for only when you have subcategories. Okay, so subcategories, and also when you have like, um, inside you have a multi-dimensional variable. Okay, so when you have a multi-dimensional variable, subcategories will be there. So that time you can go for your multi-line chart. Okay, so if you take this, like, here, if you take this order date, right? So let us just remove this representative for now. Okay, and let us put, like, order date is there. So let us put this, just because I wanted to show you this multi-dimension. Okay, so now what happens is this order date is in x-axis and the units is there in your y-axis. So you can see here, this is extendable. Okay, so there is a quarter date and it's extendable. Okay, you can understand right now, right? So what is the meaning of a multi-dimensional variable? So subcategories are there. So year, quarterly, like this, subcategories are there. Okay, so then maybe I will just drop down my I'll just remove, I'll just remove the sum of units, and then let me just put two more categories here. Let me add the region and the units price here. Okay, so that I'll get a multiple lines. Okay, because that's what I'm aiming to do it, right? So maybe for a region, let me just do a color coding, because just I wanted to show you the multiple lines. And here, let it label unit price, let it label. Okay, so now as you can see here, you are able to see multiple lines, but the graph is looking very, very small. It is not showing any kind of um, I mean see see, when I chose quarter, you could see a better visualization. Okay, so what is this blue line indicates means, this blue line is indicating the central region, and the orange line is indicating your east region, and red is for the west region. You can see here. Okay, region west, and this is your uh, region east, and this is your region central. Okay, so this is the way you can actually construct your multi-line. Okay, so now what we have seen is that, like, most of the examples whatever we have seen so far, all dealt with discrete data. Okay, now when you have a continuous data also, it shouldn't be an issue. Okay, so you can actually draw your line chart even if you have a continuous data. So now one more point that I need to explain you regarding this line chart is, of course, this is the way you are going to use to construct your line charts. But one more point that I wanted to speak regarding this line chart is that, say for example, you have a data set like this. Okay, so maybe you will have a date in here. Okay, maybe this is my x-axis or something, and here I have a date is there, and then here I have my units sold or sales, whatever you want to keep, you can keep it here. Okay, so now I'll be having the date wise data of how many units is getting sold, right? So say for example, I'm having first, second, third, fourth, fifth, like this I'm having. On 6th, I don't have the data. I'm having 7th, because the Bannerghatta Zoo itself, you can take it. 6th is a holiday. 6th, I won't have data. So now if I will try to plot this using my Tableau, what happens is that if you draw a line chart, okay, so for first I have 50, and then 60, 70, like this I'm having. Okay, 80, 40, like this if I have. So now here what I'm going to have is 1, 2, 3, 4. This will be continuous, right? 5, 6. Okay. and then 7 should be there. And here I'm having values from 10, 20, like this it is there. Okay, assume that for 1 it is 50, somewhere here it is coming, and for 2 some 60, so somewhere here it is coming, like this you are plotting. Okay, for 3 it is 70, here it is coming. For 4 it is 80, here it is coming. And for 5 it is 40, somewhere here. And for 6 is no data, so automatically it should come here. But when you observe this pattern of the line which is being drawn using your Tableau, you will identify that it directly go here. Okay, so it doesn't address this at all. Okay, so in that situations, like, visualizing your line chart without a date would be helpful for you. Okay, or otherwise you can actually have your missing values enabled. Okay, so let me just show you here. Okay, so here if you see here, you can actually specify. Okay, so you can specify uh, which week number, if you wanted to include it, you can include it. And also date also you can specify it. Okay, so this is the date. If you wanted to specify, date is going to be there. Okay, so once if you observe this date, actually here you can identify that it is a discrete form of data which is available. Okay, so this inclusion of date, and without the inclusion of date also, a line chart would make sense. But when we have to deal specifically with date associated data, then inclusion of the date along with your line chart is going to make a lot of difference. Okay, and also it is going to help you to understand that this is a discrete form of data for which I am drawing my line chart. Okay, so similar thing could happen with your continuous data also. The procedure is going to be the same when we have to deal with your continuous data also. Okay, so that's all I have for this session on line chart. And just to summarize it, we just understood a line chart is really a cool feature or the cool chart whenever we have to deal with your um, time series data. Okay, so all of you must remember that time series, the preferable choice is a line chart. And we do have options we can do a lot of customization can be performed when as and when you wanted your visualization to look better, you can actually go for multiple customization, which will make essentially is going to make your visualization in a better manner. Okay, so but whatever I have spoken about in terms of line chart is definitely the basic idea where to start for a line chart. Okay, but there are a lot of customization that could be taken with the line chart.